Canada. And then after the national item, we're going to have our land acknowledgement for the lands that we live in in English and in French. And then we would get right into our welcome message by Mr. Abis Salami, who is also a board member of ACCH. And then after Mr. Abis Salami gives a welcome or introduction to today's program, we would also have the culture talk starting with Mrs. Hall, sorry. And then we go through the federal procurement information, which is the reason why most of us are here today as well. And so without much ado, it is 6:05. I welcome everyone warmly to this beautiful beautiful Thursday evening. You're all warmly welcome here, and thank you all for joining us in spite of your very scheduled appointments, which COVID has brought to the forefront. My name is Edosa Adams Idode. I'm the host for today, and I sit as one of the volunteers for ACCH. Without further ado, it's 6:05. Can we please rise for our national item or All Canada? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for sharing that screen. So we're going right into our program. I want to warmly say welcome everyone again. Thank you for joining our monthly Let's Talk series. Today, Thursday, June the 24th, we're going to have a land acknowledgement for the lands that we share. We're going to have the land acknowledgement in English. First of all, it will be in English by Emmanuel Okorafor, who is a young, dynamic graduate and a volunteer at ACCH. And after Emmanuel gives the land acknowledgement in English, we're going to have another inspiring young man, Oshoboge Dode, give the land acknowledgement in French. So over to you, Mr. Emmanuel, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis, from the Anishinaabe to the Athawandaran, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis. These lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we have a responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, water, plants, animals, ancestors that walk before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Masagas of the Credit First Nations for sharing their traditional territory with us. Thank you.
Halton, tel que nous la connaissons aujourd'hui, est riche de l'histoire et des traditions modernes de nombreuses Premières Nations et Métis, des Anishinaabe aux Adewandaran, en passant par les Haudenosaunee et les Métis. Ces terres entourant les grands lacs sont ancrées dans l'histoire autochtone. Alors que nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui sur ces terres de traité, nous avons la responsabilité d'honneur et de respecter les 4 directions: la terre, les eaux, les plantes, les animaux, les ancêtres qui ont marché avant nous et tous les merveilleux éléments de la création qui existent. Nous tenons à reconnaître et remercier la Première Nation Mississaugas of the Credit d'avoir partagé son terre traditionnelle avec nous.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Korafo and Mr. Oshobuge Edode. Before we go right into the program, I want to give a moment to Lady Abba, who is the president of ACCH, to give a 1-minute talk. It's important that we just listen for 1 minute before we go right back into our program. So Lady Abba, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Idosa, and welcome everybody. It's actually going to be a 1-minute silence, a 1-minute silence for the many, many unnamed graves of First Nation children that were discovered, for the people that were killed in London, a 1-minute silence for you and I to be the change that we want to see. The history of Canadians, as much as we can change the past, we need to try as much as possible to change our present and our future. So please, let's take that 1 minute to reflect on what's happening. If you're a praying person, please pray. And after the 1 minute, Mr. Dosa, please take it away.
Thank you so much for that. May the souls of the faithful departed rest in peace. Amen. Thank you, Miss Fiona Hall and Afolabi that just joined us. So we're going into our program right away. Welcome once again. This is our virtual series, Let's Talk. And what are we talking about? We're going to be talking about the one and only Jamaica. I'm so excited to hear this culture talk on Jamaica, because sharing our culture and sharing our history is so important to this land that we call our own. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce to this virtual audience Miss Marilyn Hall, who was born in the beautiful island of Jamaica. She's settled in Canada since 1996 and has lived in the region of Halton since 2006. Mrs. Hall is married to the love of her life, Jason Hall, for 20 years, and she has 4 amazing children. She's a graduate in business admin and has a master's degree in management. As a Christian, Mrs. Hall strongly believes in sharing God's love with everyone and treating all persons with the same level of respect. I warmly welcome you, Ms. Hall, to this virtual audience, and the stage is yours. Can we please give Ms. Hall a virtual welcome? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Idosa, and thank you all from the members of ACCH and everyone that's here tonight. Can everyone hear me well? So to make sure you can hear me? Perfect. Okay, so I'm here to talk about Jamaica. I'm going to be sharing my screen. It's always a challenge, but hopefully this will work properly. I think it's showing the wrong one. That's not the one I want to show. Oh, it is. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? I'm low.
Yes, we can. I can.
Oh, someone said I'm low. My sound is low. Can you hear me any better now?
You're fine, Miss Hall.
Okay, no, someone, okay. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna kick things off, and I just want to greet everyone and say Wagwan. This is the way we greet each other in Jamaica. It's the Jamaican patois way. It's broken English, of course, but it's saying what is going on, but it's so much more than that. Wagwan, we want to know if you're okay. So when you see a Jamaican next time, just say to them Wagwan. They may correct you and tell you how to say it properly, but anyway, you can try that. So Jamaica, the land of my birth. I'm very proud to represent my country, and I have here our motto. It says, "Out of many, one people." So I'm just gonna go into it and give you a little bit. It's there's so much to know. So when I was going through and trying to figure out what to say and what to present in Jamaica, I'm like, oh, let me take a little here and a little there and explain to everyone just who we are as a people and as a land. So Jamaica is found in the Caribbean. It's the third largest island in the Caribbean. If you notice, we have Cuba at the top, and then we have Haiti and Dominican Republic. So that's an island to itself. Hispaniola is called, and these islands, Cuba is Spanish, Dominica is Spanish, and Haiti is French. So Jamaica is the largest English-speaking Caribbean country. Jamaica is a democratic country. We were first, we gained our independence from Britain back in 1962, and we're still part of the British Commonwealth. Our current Prime Minister is Andrew Holness, this lovely man right here. So let me give you a little tidbit, lots to know. We are a population of about 2.186 million projected for 2021. The diaspora population is an interesting one that we have a lot of Jamaicans living abroad, and it's estimated to be about 3 million, and that includes our offspring, so our descendants of people that have immigrated from Jamaica. And the estimated number is 1.6 million that are first generation Jamaicans. So if we should all return to Jamaica, the island would not be able to hold us all. According to the International Labour Organization, a 2015 report, Jamaica topped countries with female managers. So you're likely to have a female as your manager if you were to be working in Jamaica, which I think is a great thing and shows the progress of the island. And we even had a female head of state, Portia Simpson Miller. We have made significant contribution to the world in terms of music, food, fun, and relaxation, but so much more. The island is divided into 14 parishes. We have Hanover, that starts in the top left there, going across St. James, where you'll find Montego Bay, Trelawney, St. Anne, where you find places like Discovery Bay and Ocho Rios, St. Mary, Portland, beautiful Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Kingston, you'll find the capital, Kingston City, it's the capital of the island. St. Catherine, where you find Spanish Town, that was where we also had the first capital, which was later called Spanish Town, but back then it was called Diego de la Vega. We had Clarendon, where I am from, Mapen area. There's Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland. In Westmoreland, you'll find the famous Negril Beach. I'm going to give you a brief history of the island. The island, first people that were there, the natives, the Arawaks, Tainos, and some historians said that the natives migrated from the North America, came down to the islands, and others have lately said they came from South America to come to the island. No, we don't know where they're from, right? But we just love the fact that from that history, they named the island Jamaica, which is land of wood and water. And if you ever visit the country, you will see what they're talking about. After, sometime later in 1494, we had Christopher Columbus The history books also call him Cristobal Colon. He came to Jamaica in 1494, and from there on, we had the Spanish colonizing the island. As I mentioned earlier, they made San Diego de la Vega the capital city, which is later called Spanish Town. And the changeover in rule came from the British. They came to the island in 1655. And the British, the influence of the British is still felt today, as we're still part of the British Commonwealth. So the British brought Blacks to Africans to the island. And of course, if you know anything about Jamaica or even the Caribbean, Blacks form the greater population of the island. And from the Blacks, we have our Jamaican patois derived from English and African dialects and languages, and of course, the influence of other nations that were there. Once slavery was abolished, 1834 officially, and then 1838, everything was done away with. They brought in indentured servants from India. You can see here, we have Indians, we have Chinese that came to Jamaica, we have Germans that came to Jamaica, we have Syrians and people from Lebanon that came. We also had Jews, and history has it that there were Jews that came with Christopher Columbus to Jamaica trying to escape the Spanish Inquisition. So we have a rich history of cultures in Jamaica. So that's how we derive our motto, out of many, one people. We embrace this national motto. You're a Jamaican not based on your color. It's based on the fact that you were born on this island and you embrace it as your own. And we see it as the best island in the Caribbean. We commonly refer to ourselves as Yardies. A way of explaining that is to say your yard is your home. So our Jamaica is our yard. It's home to us. So wherever we go, Jamaica is always a place that we feel is home. Of course, we embrace Canada or US or wherever we live. Jamaica will always be home. So we embrace this ideology. So anytime you hear a person refer to someone and say, "Oh, that's a Yardie," that's a Jamaican, and it's known all the world over. Jamaica is a naturally beautiful country. You just go around, driving around, and the beauty of the island it pulls you in. It's something that you really have to experience in person. I haven't met any non-Jamaican that go to the island and visit that didn't love the island. They all have heap a lot of praises on the island. So whether it's going to the famous Dunn's River Falls or visiting one of our beautiful beaches or a hidden spot, and you'll find some of these hidden spots here or there, or just a place that you can go and relax, or somewhere we can hear our birds chirping, seeing nature at its best, or enjoying the beautiful, cool Blue Mountains that's famous for its coffee. There's so much to see and to do in Jamaica. We have made significant contribution to sports, and not just track and field. I think a lot of people associate Jamaica with just track and field, but Jamaica is involved in a lot of various sports. Track and field is famous. I don't know what it is, but we start running at very young ages. So as soon as we can run, we're racing. So it's just a thing we do. So it's not as any surprise to us that we have captured the world stage in track and field. But we also participate in a lot more sports. As I said, we participate in cricket. We have our own Jamaican team, plus we're part of the West Indies team. We have Jamaicans that are part of the West Indies team, and we compete with Australia, South Africa, UK, etc. We play football, which is called soccer in North America. Netball, thanks to the contribution of the British for those sports. We also participate in hockey. Jamaicans who are descendants of of those that are born on the island and they live abroad and they have access to facilities to practice their form of hockey team. We participate in gymnastics, bobsledding. For those of you who probably watch the movie Cool Runnings, you probably know about that. Basketball, and I'm sure there's so many other sports that are missing. We try to be in every little thing as much as possible. And our food. If you go, and I've been to other islands. I'm not trying to bash any. I shouldn't bash any other island because every island has something that is renowned. But our food is known world over, and we try to replicate that here, and we try to cook our meals. But we have, and this is not just coming from one culture. This is the beauty of Jamaica. We have taken different culture food, so from the Indians and the Chinese and everyone that came, the British, the Africans, we all come together and we have a fusion of food that you just have to taste for yourself to understand why is it that we go crazy over food. In the top left there is a dish with it's snapper fish and it's steamed with different vegetables like okra. We have bami. Bami comes from, and there's bami right here in the top right. Bami is made from cassava, and cassava is it's grown in the ground, and that is something that the Arawak, the native Indians, would use, and it's also used for starch. Do other things with it, but that's something that we inherited from the natives. The one below the fish there is the Jamaican beef patty. Amazing. And we've had other versions of this as the years went by. We have chicken and different things that people have made patties with patties, but the beef patty for me is the best thing. To the right is one of the signature dishes in Jamaica, rice and peas. Now, peas and rice. So if people say peas and rice, they're not Jamaicans. Rice and peas and jerk chicken. The jerk chicken, again, we have to thank the native Indians for jerk chicken. They're the ones that used to cook their meats in a particular way, and we have adopted that and taken it, and it's part of our cuisine today. And on the left, here is ackee and saltfish. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later on. This is our national dish, and then we have fried dumplings. And on right to the bottom, this is called a gourd. It's grown on a tree, and we empty it out. It's dried, and we call it a calabash or a gourd. And back in the day, the natives, the Africans, and the people on the island that may not have had access to fine dishes use this as a dish. So as a way of preserving history, you will find some restaurants will kind of bring this in. And here we have breadfruit that's grown on a tree. It's roasted and served right there. And this is callaloo, kind of like collard greens, but I think it tastes better because it's from Jamaica. We also have sweets. A lot of our sweets, we incorporate coconuts because it's found so much on the island. This is called drops. So it's coconut, it's cut in small pieces. It's boiled down with sugar and ginger. It's taken and it's just dropped on a surface where it cools down. It's a nice little sweet to have. This is made from tamarind. The middle one here, the round ones, are made from tamarind. It's grown on a huge tree. We take it and we extract the tamarind and we roll it with sugar. Right there, you find a Jamaican pudding. Pudding is made from potato. We add yam to it. There's sugar. There's stuff like cinnamon and nutmeg all blended together, and that's baked. We bake it on maybe an outside stove with a coal, or it's baked in an oven. And below that is what we call a gazada. It's made again from coconut filling, sugar. These things are yummy, and my mouth's watering for some Jamaican food. Our fruits, we have a ton of fruits in Jamaica. We all know Jamaica, well, a lot of people know, we have mangoes. But some of the other fruits you may not know about. So in the top left, it's called star apple. So the star apple fruits, I don't know what fruit I would compare the star apple with. Very sweet fruit to eat. It has a little bit of, it makes you feel your your teeth feel a little stainy, a little bit. Below that was what we call our apples. They're white on the inside when you bite into them. And the round of the thing you see is called guinea. I love guinea. It comes in the summer. I will eat this. I used to eat this the first thing I got up in the morning. I would eat guinea for my breakfast. I love guinea. In the middle of that fruit, prickly fruit, is sour sop. Now the sour sop, we extract the fruit inside, and it's juice. A lot of Jamaicans just go gung ho for this. They mix it with condensed milk, and you will find this regularly on a Sunday as part of your meal. The top right is what we call June plums. I love June. When you peel it and you start eating into it, the core is a little prickly, but I love it. So it can be sour to semi-sweet, but it doesn't get really sweet. And below that is papaya. A lot of people love papaya. They juice it. They just eat it like that. I'm not really a big fan of papaya, but it's very well known well, most people love papaya. Just want to introduce you to some of our famous Jamaicans. Some of the faces, a lot of you are familiar with, and some of the faces, some of you are wondering why and who these people are. So let me just start. Everyone knows, let me get him out of the way. Everyone knows Bob Marley. Most people know Bob Marley. I should never assume. What Bob Marley did for the island is bring our culture and our love for music to the world and showcase us on a larger scale, and really took that Jamaican pride to the next level for us. So, a lot of us are kind of grateful for that, what he has done. In the corner there, in the very, that extraordinary hat, is Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was a pioneer for Black people. He once lived in the United States. He got arrested, but he was one that would push for, Black equality and encourage Blacks to go back to Africa to go see the motherland. So he became one of our national heroes. In the bottom right is Mrs. Louise Bennett Coverley. We all love this lady. She's no longer with us. But she took our love for Jamaican patois and made it more poetic. So she would write about different things that were happening back in the 60s and all those eras, and take it to take it national, international. And so we used to recite her poems growing up in school, and made us even want to love who we are as a people and how different we were. Because you grow up sometimes and you hear they will say, don't speak like that, or don't speak the dialect. But we love it so much, and when we heard someone that was as intelligent as Miss Louise Bennett take it and make us want to embrace it even more. Believe me, I think she has done a lot more for Jamaicans than a lot of us will even give her credit for. Her ties to Canada, she used to live in Toronto, and she passed away in Toronto. So Canada was her home. And we all know the famous Usain Bolt that has brought Jamaica to center stage in terms of track and field. But right below him is Merlene Ottey. Merlene Ottey was way before Usain Bolt. And she has done so much for athletics and women in athletics in Jamaica. At one point, she held the record for single medals for track and field athletes. She had 10 at the time. So she is somebody that we all admire as an athlete. At the top left there is Gordon Butch Stewart. He is the founder of the Sandals and Beaches Resorts. He recently passed away, but we give so much credit for this man for showing the world the beauty of Jamaica. When you hear about Sandals, you think about Sandals Resort, you think about high quality, and you think about enjoying the beaches. And not only did he do it for Jamaica, but a lot of the islands, you go to, you will see a Sandals Resort. So he really brought us to another level. I'm going to talk a little bit about Jamaica's ties to Canada. Some of the earliest Black settlers to Canada were Jamaican Maroons. Maroons were those Blacks that decided that they were not going to stand under British colonialism, and they ran away from the plantations and formed their own communities. And some of them were captured and taken away from Jamaica and brought to Nova Scotia in the late 1790s. So, of course, I'm claiming cousins in Nova Scotia just for that. Our national dish, and we talked about it earlier, ackee and saltfish. Now, saltfish is codfish. We don't have codfish in the Caribbean. It comes from Eastern Canada. So the legend is, or history has it, that the codfish was brought back to Jamaica by workers that went to Nova Scotia to work. And they brought back this codfish to the island. And of course, knowing how we are as Jamaicans, we're going to incorporate anything we can into our local dishes because we like to fuse things together. And so the codfish was blended with the ackee. So the ackee is grown on a tree and it is pretty much everywhere you go. And we make it with other dishes by itself. We make it with pork and other things, but we blend it with ackee and saltfish, and it's now our national dish. Jamaican immigrants came to Canada also in the 1950s and 1960s, and it formed a strong part of the Toronto's diverse culture. They also migrated to Montreal. They migrated to Edmonton. So most of the major cities that you go, pretty much anywhere you go in Canada, you will find Jamaicans. If you go to Oakwood and Eglinton in Toronto, there are a number of restaurants and other businesses that are owned by Jamaicans that either their parents came here or they themselves are still there, coming into Jamaica back in the 50s and the 60s. So whether it's the smiling faces that you see, our food that we love to, make part of our daily lives, or just the fact that we can go to a beach and relax. Jamaica is just an amazing place that I would encourage everyone to take a visit to, try and see the sights and just go and talk, sit down and relax with the people. People are very friendly. In general, people are very friendly. There's a saying that we have, but this one is very close to our motto. Now this is in Patois. I'm gonna say it for you, and some of you will try to maybe try to speak it yourself. We will say we lickle, but with talawa. And lickle is the broken English way of saying little. Talawa, we are not sure where that came from, but we know what it means. It means we're a small island, but we have done so much. Our contribution is it's immeasurable. How we've contributed to the world and in so many ways, and we're easily identifiable. Our flag, you see a flag of Jamaica and it conjures up so many things. So, even when we hear about a Jamaican, achieving anything, it doesn't matter what it is. No matter how small or how big it is, this is what we'll say. We'll liquor, but with talawa. And another thing we love to say is Jamaica to the world, meaning here we're presenting us to you. We are people that can do great things. So we're presenting Jamaica to the world. So I invite you, when COVID is over and we can travel again, that you'll take a trip to our beautiful island of Jamaica. That's it of my presentation. Thank you all for listening.
Wow. Marilyn, welcome. I must say my stomach is still churning because that food just made me really hungry. We lickle, but with talawa. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
With talawa. Yes. Thank you so much for this culture talk. It is so important that we know that when we talk about our various cultures, it just re-emphasizes how similar we are because we have the same values. Soursop, I remember that so much. The candy drop that you talked about, we call it coconut candy.
Oh, wow.
It's so similar. So, and then bringing the history of Jamaica, tying it to your food, your entertainment, entertainment, your national heroes. To me, Jamaica is a melting pot of colors like Canada. I think your strength is in your diversity like Canada. So that just shows how very similar we are in terms of our strength, in terms of our history and our culture and all the influences from the various diverse communities that actually settled in Jamaica that are called Jamaicans today. So thank you so much for that presentation. I'm sure there'll be questions that people may want to ask. If you could bear with us. I have a question, but I will wait until.
Oh, sure.
If the digital team, Oshobuge, Osidode, and Emmanuel Okorafo, they are the ones going to be looking at the questions on the chart. And I would say to everyone, I apologize, I should say this at the beginning, but we're all used to Zoom. Your questions posted on the chart, please. We'll have our team that will be monitoring that. But the talk about Jamaica has so much richness in it. And the similarities with Canada is so it's so very opaque that for me, it's almost like we're talking about Canada to some extent with respect to the food, the culture, and the people, and even the national heroes. We always look at Jamaica as Bob Marley because Bob Marley brought love to the world, and Bob Marley brought Jamaica to the world as well. So thank you so much for that excellent presentation. Without further ado, we want our audience to really know what we do at ACCH. You've heard about the culture talk. That's one of the things we do. But at this time, I would like to give the virtual stage to Mr. Abi Salami, who volunteers for ACCH, to tell you just a little bit of what we do at ACCH. Over to Abi Salami. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And once again, thank you, Marilyn, for that tons of information. And that's part of what we do, bringing our culture back home so that here in Canada, people will know us, know our culture, so we can learn how to relate with each other. So that's one of those things, important things we do at ACCH. So ACCH is a community organization that focuses on being the voice to make positive change happen for our African Caribbean community through continuous and persistent advocacy to address equitable dealings that affect us in the society. We'll engage with all thought leaders and be the face for change and partnership. We solicit ideas and be a part of problem resolution in our region. ACCH work to elevate, build, empower, and strengthen our African Caribbean community by advancing our socio-economic, political, educational, and professional empowerment. We are the ambassadors of the African Caribbean community, and with open mind, we will work together with our allies to make a better community. And again, this is our promise to you all. Our promise is to leave no stone unturned until all citizens and settlers enjoys equality in all ramifications. Thank you so much, and I hope we can join hands together and make our community better. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Salami. Thank you, because that's the reason, one of the reasons we do our culture talk. It's about impacting lives, creating change, and building partnership. And you're so right on spot. And so this brings us to the one of the main highlights of today, which is federal procurement. As you know, we have two main agents in our federal government that is a part of supporting federal procurement in Canada. And when we talk about federal procurement, we're talking about goods and services and doing business with the federal government of Canada, which most of us may not know, or some of us may have been involved in that process. And this is just another opportunity to engage in partnership, as Mr. Abi Salami had mentioned. Another opportunity as well to have an interactive session with our two guests for today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to the virtual stage, Mr. Imanzi Kayitare. I apologize for if I didn't pronounce your last name well, but Mr. Imanzi, as I would love to call him, has spent most of his professional career with Employment and Social Development Department of Canada. And he joined the federal public service as a student since 2009. In his capacity working with the federal government of Canada, he provides services in delivery, corporate strategy, and program delivery. His expertise includes Public Service and Procurement Canada, which is PSPC. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics and public administration from Concordia University. He became part of the PSPC, which is the Public Service and Procurement Canada, in January 2021. And his role is an economic policy analyst in that department. He is passionate about innovation, community, which is what we're doing today, mentorship, and youth leadership. We are so delighted and pleased to welcome Mr. Imanzi to our Let's Talk Virtual Series. Also with us that will be sharing from the ministry is the Director of the Office of Small and Medium Enterprise, OSME, of Ontario Region, Mr. Adam Yule. OSME works to make federal procurement more accessible and to small and diverse Canadian businesses. OSME is part of what they do is they lead and support a number of initiatives and strategic partnership to support social procurement priorities, which is why we're here today to listen to that. But one of the important objectives and the mandate of OSME is to provide procurement modernization and bidder diversity. These are their core mandates. Mr. Adam Yule joined the federal government in 2006. He joined the environmental sector of the federal government and later moved to the Public Services and Procurement Department of Canada. So before taking his current role as the Director of Office of Small and Medium Enterprise, he was a program manager, regional manager with the federal public sector. He also holds a bachelor's and master's degree from the Great University of Guelph. So I would, at this moment, call upon Mr. Imanzi and Mr. Adam, to please, the stage is yours. Thank you so much. Can we welcome them virtually? Thank you. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we're very happy to be here today, and thank you for the very kind welcome. And Marilyn certainly set the bar high for smooth presentations with engaging photos and beautiful pictures of scenery and food. So I do apologize, our deck is not quite so engaging, but it will be very interesting for sure. So we're very happy to be here. And when Marilyn was talking about Wagwan, I guess I hope I pronounced that correctly, I had some memories trigger. I spent some volunteer time in Brazil in my younger years, and there it was tudo bem. So it's how are you? Is everything well? And you know, you would say tudo bem, and mostly it was your body language, and that you would say tudo bem back, but it was how you sort of, your posture would answer the question when you asked it back. So I hadn't thought about that in a long time. So thank you for bringing back that memory for me. As mentioned, you know, the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises that Imanzi and I work for, we support suppliers and do a lot of outreach and engagement to business owners, helping them understand federal procurement. Full transparency, we have a mole in the crowd, Sandra. I wasn't going to mention her, but I'll mention her just because I can see her on my camera. She's from our procurement group, so I was speaking to her today about something else, and I just mentioned that we had this outreach tonight, and she was interested in listening in. So we have a third, you know, heavy hitter in the background. So if Sandra, if you have anything to add or we're saying anything wrong, feel free to correct us for sure. For sure. But what we'll do today is Imanzi's going to lead off with a myth-busting deck. So we do a lot of seminars for suppliers, educating them on the federal procurement system and helping them kind of along their journey. Full transparency, federal procurement can be intimidating. You know, I use the analogy of an onion sometimes. So there's lots of layers to the federal procurement onion. So depending on your what stage you're at in that federal journey and how aware you are of opportunities. You know, there's different content that we have to support the businesses. So we're going to start with a myth-busting presentation, which is kind of our intro deck, just to raise awareness of a little bit of how federal procurement works, but also just, you know, bust some of the myths that people have about it. There is, you know, incredible opportunities in federal procurement that a lot of companies we talk to don't realize. It does take some work, so OSME is here to help with that work and give companies a partner in their journey and understanding how to participate in federal procurement. So with that, I'll pass it over to Imanzi. Following that, we'll have a little bit open Q&A. I do want to speak a little bit about social procurement as well, because that's a big priority of the Government of Canada. We've had some recent social procurement pilots that came out that would be of interest, I think. And we're looking at a social procurement program that the department's working on. So there's going to be future opportunities all around sort of, you know, equality in our supply chain and federal procurement diversity. So a lot of good work going in that area recently. So I want to share some of that as well later. So Imanzi, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Adam. Let me just share my screen here. Okay. You can see my screen and hear me well? Oh. Can everyone hear me well?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah,
We
okay, perfect.
Okay,
sorry, you can see the screen. Okay, sorry, I didn't get a response there, but okay. Thank you, Adam, for that, and thank you to our host. We are really delighted to be here. As Adam mentioned, I'm going to be going over our quick overview on myth-busting federal procurement. So as Adam mentioned, this is sort of like our introductory to federal procurement for anyone that's a small business that's maybe thinking that federal government procurement is not something I want to get into. This is sort of like an overview to sort of dispel a lot of those myths and to really break it down in terms of what the process is and to better inform you on your next steps. So how much does the government buy? So this is one of the first questions that we get when you think of federal procurement. I guess when you think of federal procurement, you just think, I guess to simplify it is purchasing, right? So the government of Canada purchases goods and services for its various needs. And so the government of Canada is one of the largest buyers of goods and services in Canada. In the fiscal year 2018-2019, the government spent over $15 billion on goods, services, construction, and maintenance projects. So give or take, that number is around that range, and obviously, in this past year of COVID, that number could probably increase due to that the government was buying several different goods and services in response to the pandemic. And awards of over $400,000 for contracts and processes, over $1 million on credit card transactions each year. So this is actually a large number, and I'll get into it later on in the presentation in terms of that there is a huge opportunities that small businesses could slowly get into for those low dollar values, in which are done directly through credit card purchases from departments within a certain threshold. So in terms of another myth, so one of the myths is that the government doesn't buy from small businesses. So this is in fact not true. So around 90% of contracts awarded each year are valued under $25,000. And as you can see there in that pie graph, that's a large portion is geared towards those low dollar contracts, which are primarily awarded to small businesses. So direct purchases from vendors valued under 10K is over 500 million. So this presents a huge opportunity for small businesses to actually tap into. So another myth is that I'm too small to sell to the government. So this is something also that we hear quite often. So in addition to doing business with large companies, as many of you may know, the government does buy a large various different commodities and products from large companies. The government of Canada also buys from various different businesses. So whether you are a solopreneur, so if you are a sole proprietor, there's only you're the only one in your business, you could compete for a federal government contract. If you're a small growing independent startup, you're now sort of continuing on that phase in your business. If you are established local business, or if you're a medium-sized business. And I guess in terms of our definition of medium-sized businesses for PSBC, would be businesses that have employees of under 499 would be considered for medium-sized businesses. So another myth is the government doesn't buy from businesses like mine. So this is actually something that we really want to also address and to really dispel that myth, and that, as Adam was mentioning, a big push right now is to make sure that we are diversifying the supply chain. And so we believe in inclusive procurement. So what does inclusive procurement look like? What inclusive procurement looks like is that we wanted to ensure that all suppliers must have an equal chance at doing business with us. And this could include green and clean tech businesses. So right now there's a big focus on lowering our carbon footprint, as indicated in the last couple budgets and also most recently in this budget as well. So there is a big focus on the environment and making sure that we are lowering our emissions for the future. Women-owned or women-led businesses is also a big priority as well. And so making sure that we are reaching out and that women-owned businesses do also have opportunities to tap into these federal procurement. Underrepresented groups, so this could be racialized communities, Black businesses is also another big priority, and as what was outlined in our minister's mandate letter, in that there was a focus for making sure that Black businesses are having opportunities and making sure that that there is enough awareness for the different opportunities. Indigenous people, so the government of Canada does have a long-standing relationship with Indigenous peoples, and so there is also those targets as well for Indigenous Canadian or Indigenous-led businesses, New Canadians, social enterprises. So these are all considered as for priorities, and so making sure that these groups are included within the supply chain is a big focus for government and also for our department at Public Service and Procurement Canada. So another myth is that the government doesn't buy what I sell. So usually when you think of government procurement, you think of the usual commodities, technology, aircrafts, military, property, real estate, professional services. These are all considered as for usual commodities that the government of Canada does buy and sometimes could buy on a frequent basis. But there's so much more. So they also could be considered for catering services, snow removal, landscaping, dogs and dog grooming, clothing. So there are various different goods and services in which the government could buy, and I'll get into it later on. And actually, when we get into our live simulation, I'll show you where you could find those opportunities, which is going to be on the Buy and Sell website. But literally, anything that you could think of, the government, either is currently buying or maybe has bought in the past. So in terms of which are the different demands that the departments could be looking for. So another myth is the government procurement is difficult and time consuming. So this is actually something that has been improved over the last while. And important thing to note is that all procurement activities must be open, fair, and transparent. So this is a very important takeaway. in that federal laws and regulations, as well as Treasury Board of Canada's policies, guides the Government of Canada's procurement process. So what this means is that anything in terms of the publication of information, our procedures, our processes is followed by our regulations and our laws. And so doing business with the Government of Canada, there is a clear mechanism and a clear framework in which the Government of Canada does buy. And so it is done in an open and transparent and fair process to make sure that we are being guided in that manner. And initiatives to make procurement more accessible. So there has been several different initiatives over the last little while. So e-procurement, so making sure that we are being digital in our approach to procurement. E-bid submissions, so there are different frameworks for which the submissions of bids could actually be done electronically. 15-day payments, so this is something which has also been updated to ensure that for those situations in which it can be obtained for 15-day payments, so making sure that they're following those processes. Plain language, so ensuring that all our documentation is guided in clear and in a consistent manner that is also very user-friendly. So anything that's getting posted is posted in a clear and in a concise way, and reducing barriers to entry. So this is something that we also hear and that has been heard over the last while in terms of, what are the steps that we could take to reduce those barriers to entries for small businesses and the small businesses community across Canada. So another myth is that government procurement is centralized. So you may think that, it's just in one single area done in Ottawa that does all the procurement. But when you think of the government as your potential client, as you would be in the marketplace. So when you're looking and you're searching for new clients to do business with, you will research and you will see who are the clients, in your field or in your area. And so it's the same way with the Government of Canada. So larger and more complex contracts are managed by Public Services in Procurement Canada if it's above a certain threshold. But if it's below a certain threshold, and I'll get into that shortly, those contracts or those opportunities could be handled directly with those federal departments. And so there's 100+ departments and agencies that do their own buying of goods and services. So for example, the RCMP, they have different, offices and detachments all across Canada. And so maybe in one area of the country, they may be buying various different, goods and services. And so that's just with one detachment. So that could be in Western Canada and another detachment in Eastern Canada. And so, that could be, several different clients, that you could be exposed to. So just something to think about when you're thinking about who your potential clients are. So competitive procurement. So procurement, generally that is over $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for services, awarded through a bid and through a quote from potential suppliers. So as I was mentioning before, in terms of the threshold, so once it starts to go above a certain threshold, in this case, $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for services, then it must go through a competitive process, and then that will be posted onto the buy and sell, and that there could be a variety of different methods that can be used. One of the more popular ones, which you may know, is a request for proposals. So that could be a method, as well as several different methods that could be listed on the buy and sell website. And so the tender notice, once it goes out publicly, in which it's all done electronically on the buy and sell, it will indicate as to how the government intends to buy the service. So each individual tender would be unique in what the requirements are. So that's just something to know, but I'll get into that shortly. The low dollar value procurement is another opportunity for which small businesses could tap into if they weren't already considering if this could be a marketplace for them. So the majority of low dollar contracts are awarded using a competitive process. And so non-competitive approaches can be used, again, but through a fair and transparent mechanism, and that the goal is to make sure that the best value for Canadians while enhancing access, competition, fairness to businesses. So as I was mentioning earlier, in terms of threshold, in terms of low dollar, so for example, something that for 25,000, that let's say if a department needs to procure chairs or paper, and if it's below a certain threshold, they could just do that on their own through their own delegated authority with their departmental credit card. And so they could just look to reach out to different businesses, maybe provide 3 quotes, and then just go with the best quote for that particular situation for if it's below that threshold. So again, that's just something to keep in mind for potential opportunities. So how to figure out if selling to the government is right for you. So again, just keeping in mind as to the objective of this presentation is to really just to provide an overview as to the potential marketplace for your business. And so the main authoritative site for searching for opportunities for federal procurement is the buy and sell. So it's the buyandSell.gc.ca. So this is where you would go to find out if the government buys what you sell. You could search for your competitors, search for goods and services that you sell. So everything is done in an open source, and so this is the main site. Now, I know certain other jurisdictions may have their own site or their own mechanisms in which they do procurement, whether at the provincial level or hospitals or whatever the case is. But in terms of federal procurement, right now this is the main platform would be to buy and sell, and this is where you would go to access what are the current active opportunities, but then also you could also research to see what has been the recent opportunities or what has been archived as for what is the current commodities that the government is buying. And so that's where you could kind of do a bit of like the research to find out if this is an area in which you want to pursue. So electronic procurement solution. So this is something to note. So the government kind of is slowly moving to a federal procurement online, and so changing the way the government and suppliers interact to buy and sell goods and services. So the new platform will be the electronic procurement solution. It will be canadabuys.canada.ca. So this will gradually replace the buy and sell.gc.ca. It's still in the beta testing phase, so it hasn't yet been phased in. But if you go on to the buy and sell website, on the home page, you'll be able to register, create an account, and you'll be receiving updates and notifications that for when the Canada Buys site does go live, you'll be able to get access to it. But for right now, and I guess once the slow gradual transition is, but for right now and for the next foreseeable future, it will be on the buy and sell website, which is through the SAP Ariba, so the Canada Buys. And yeah, this is just what I mentioned about the SAP Ariba. So it'd be a similar way. So in terms of searching for opportunities, finding out information on different tenders and bids, all of that will be posted on the Canada Buys and on SAP Ariba, and you'll be able to navigate and to find opportunities for that. You could go on to the event calendar as well on the Canada or on the buy and sell, and then find out where if there are any upcoming seminars on this, or if you have any direct questions regarding Canada Buys as it slowly gets adopted, you can always contact our office, and I'll give you our information as to how to contact our office shortly. So if you need help, that is what we're here for if you're a small business. So our Office of the Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, so we support smaller businesses understand the procurement process. So we engage, we insist, inform, and we help reduce barriers from the small business community. So that's our main drive, and that's our main mission, is to help small businesses navigate federal procurement. So we're very much outward facing. We do a lot of seminars, webinars, consultations, outreach sessions, such as this, to make sure that we're reaching out as broad as possible with various different communities. And we make sure that if they are interested in federal procurement as to how to get started. So we provide advice and tips on how to sell to the government, and as I mentioned, work to reduce barriers. So in terms of OSME services, so you could go onto our calendar, and I'll put in the chat like our direct email and our OSME Ontario website. That's where you to go. But we hold weekly webinars every Wednesday of the month. So usually, like our first webinar that we hold, for anyone that's interested, if you're at the beginning of your journey, you're trying to find out if federal procurement is right for you, we have a seminar called the Doing Business with the Government of Canada. So that one's a 2-hour webinar, and we'll go into a bit more detail in terms of the registration process, in terms of the different methods that's out there, security process, all of that. So we'll go over that at a high level. We also have bidding on opportunities, supplying for professional services. So if you're interested within, if you're a business that provides service, whether IT consulting, project management, learning services, anything of that, supplying professional services is a webinar that we offer, and also security clearance. So anything dealing with security clearance, because that's also when you go through our Doing Business with the government webinar, security clearance is also mentioned in that, and that there's a process for that. And so that webinar will give you tips and advice on the security process. And as well as once you've gone and maybe you've taken one of our webinars and you have some further questions about your particular situation, about your business, we could always book a one-on-one meeting. You would just simply send us an email, and again, I'll provide our email address shortly, and we could schedule a half-hour consultation. And we could go through and answer any questions that you may have. If you have any follow-up questions from that, you can always schedule something else in the future. And if anytime you are in need to contact, you can always contact us. We have our 1-800 number as well. One thing I also forgot to mention is that our OSME offices are located all across Canada. So we are the OSME office in Ontario. Before COVID, we would be having our actual webinars and meetings in our office there at Yonge and Sheppard at 4900. So we are the Ontario office. We have offices in Quebec, Atlantic, Western, and Pacific. So depending on what region of the country that you're in, or if you have, a friend, a family member, colleague in another region, and they're thinking about getting into federal procurement and they live in that region, you could always refer them to the OSME office in that region, and they could also follow up for any questions. So that's the end of this presentation, but I wanted to maybe touch on, and maybe before I give it back to Adam here, I wanted to actually show you what the buy and sell website looks like.
Sure, thanks Imanzi, and fantastic job as always. And I'll put a plug in for my fantastic team, and Imanzi's a strong team member. they're dedicated to supporting companies, and a lot of people are really surprised. Some government programs and support services, you call a number and leave a message, and sometimes you never hear back, or it takes a really long time, or you send an email and it takes a long time to hear back. So the whole team is fully dedicated. So usually if you email us, we'll get back to you within a day or two. If you need a one-on-one, you have questions, you need support, you'll get a contact, pretty quickly. Like, our team is small right now. There's only 6 of us. And it amazes me at how, dedicated the team is to helping people. So that's part of, our team culture that we really enjoy, is helping people out. So there's, no question too big, no question too small. If we don't have the answer, we'll try and point you in the right direction, or put you in contact with somebody that can help you. So I do encourage everybody to take advantage of it. So as Imanzi said, we can maybe pause for a few questions there if anybody has any. Maybe we'll give it a couple of seconds and see if you do. If not, we will do sort of just a quick demo of the buy and sell site, because it's as Imanzi mentioned, we are transitioning to SAP Ariba and Canada Buys. So some things are starting to be posted on SAP Ariba, but right now this is our authoritative source, as they call it. So there's going to be a period where things will be posted on both, and then there'll be a period where we announce that buy and sell is not the authoritative source anymore. But the search function on buy and sell, and some of the tips and tricks that we talk to suppliers about always is of great interest, and people are actually quite amazed at how easy they can look for opportunities. So there's a great keyword search. You can get emails pushed to your inbox if there's certain categories of procurements that you're in specifically. So you can sort of passively monitor opportunities, where if there's any requests for proposals, new opportunities posted, buy and sell will send you an email and say, these opportunities were posted today. And it shows you a long history of all the past contracts that were awarded. So if you're in catering, for example, you can search catering, you can find the catering or food and beverage, services, and you can follow that category and look back on all the contract history. So a lot of suppliers find it incredibly helpful and powerful to try and determine if there is a market for the business that they have. And sometimes too, if they're a smaller business and they don't think they can meet the specific sort of scope and scale of the procurements that are happening, you can see who the contracts are awarded to. So if you're in a certain business, you can look for the companies that have been awarded contracts, and you can sort of reach out and approach them and say, this is what I do. I know it's part of the scope that you're bidding on actively. You've been awarded some contracts. Is there any opportunity for us to help be part of your supply chain? So there's different angles you can take in looking for opportunities. So maybe we'll pause there, and if anybody has a question, you can just unmute and ask, or you can put it in the chat, and we'll just give it a second to see if anybody does, and if not, we'll do a quick sort of search demo and keep sharing more information.
I really wanted to, sorry, if anybody would ask, you can talk after me. Thank you so much, Imanzi, for that overview. It is so richly in depth, and it really gives us a structure of what this is all about. And I thank you kindly for that. The myths that you had described, and I want to put somebody on the spot, if you don't mind, Sandra. I just, hopefully, if you can help us, or well, for some people, and including myself, we talked about the inclusive procurement. And that's a very key word to use. And I felt that if you could kind of expand or give examples on that with respect to women, new Canadians, underrepresented groups, and social enterprise, if you can just give us some key highlights as to what does that really entail. Thank you.
And Sandra, I can help you out too if you like. I do have I have my social procurement deck on my big screen here that I've been presenting internally to other groups within PSPC to sort of get our program and project managers aware of the different things that are happening in the social procurement realm within the government. So,
okay, perfect. First, I'm going to say Wagwan, because I'm Jamaican, by the way, just to let you know. So what we really want to do is we want to diverse our contract, right? So right now we had several pilots for Black-owned business, right? And there was lesson learned from those ones, right? So we're trying to initiate other ones as well. So I want you guys to check buy and sell for new requirements that's going to be coming your way soon for Black owned. So we encourage you guys to at least register on buy and sell, register on Canada Buy. So when these new requirement comes out, you can review it, you can see whether or not it meets your business profile, and then you can submit your proposal. For women Black-owned businesses, is really targeting that to create growth, to create job, to reduce the gap in the social economics, right? As well as Indigenous, and we have women-owned, right? Because we realize there's a lot of gap within the procurement process and how we're awarding a contract, right? So we're trying to minimize that gap and give other groups, other unrepresented groups, an opportunity to bid on Canada's procurement. Did I answer your question?
I wanted examples, but you kind of segued into my next question in terms of the registration process, because most of us here, we're here because we want to know, we want to learn, and we want to be able to have the right information to be able to be part of this procurement for the government. So if you want to walk us through, is the registration process tedious? Is it cumbersome? Do we need to go to Dr. Google to understand the registration process? So if you could just help us with that.
Yeah, the registration process is not complex. If you have a CRA, if you have a business number with CRA already, right, then we ask you for a business number, right? So it's almost similar to a CRA number, which now it's going to be RT number instead of with the extension. So it's very simple. You just need to have your address, your business number, your the type of business, and also when you register now, you can set up a notification, right? So we have like GSIN, Good Service Indication Numbers, right? So if you're professional services, it starts with the R019, for example. So you can register your GSIN number, and then anytime there's something posted on buy and sell, right, then you get notification to say, hey, here's a proposal that's posted on buy and sell that may meet your business profile, and then you can review it. You can see whether or not you meet those criteria. When we compose a request for proposal, we have evaluation criteria. So you can look at the evaluation criteria to see whether or not you meet those criteria. It's almost like a job. Picture when you're applying for a job, it's similar to that, right? We have evaluation criteria in which we evaluate proposals based on those evaluation criteria.
And we can, if Imanzi, you want to share screen again, we can actually show you on the site, and there is sort of step-by-step instructions too on how to register.
So again, I encourage you guys to all register, and there's going to be new procurement coming out for Black-owned pilot requirements.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for that. You talked about lessons learned. I guess once we have a quick overview of the registration process, lessons learned from the pilot project, it's kind of helpful. We have a community that can be hesitant. Why? Because some people don't want to be rejected, or some people have a lot of myths that Imanzi has shared, that they may be reluctant. And I know the reason for this is also to dismiss those myths that people have had without really having the information that before today. So now we have the information, we can act on it. So the goal here is not just to hear, the whole goal here is to act. And so I will allow you to continue in terms of explaining the registration process. But if it's a simple process that I can apply for, I will do it and then see whether or not I meet the criteria. And Imanzi talked about threshold and competitive jobs. So, I mean, those are keywords for me that spell out, some consideration to pause and understand, okay, what does that threshold really mean? I mean, if we have like 200 people applying for, procurement for delivery for goods, what are my chances? Would they rely on those who are those businesses that the government has approved in the past, or would they consider my new business just started, as a new Canadian? And those are things that come to my mind that I'm trying to understand from you guys, if you can kind of create a balance for us, because you talk about transparency and fairness. And I wonder if that fairness criteria will work into selection process, because that's really what would the key would be. What would be the selection process? We're not going to explain the decision of the selection process, but we're just trying to understand, in applying that threshold, whether I would feel, fairly considered because I'm a new business owner, or somebody who has been doing business with the government for the last 20 years.
Well, the way we can, when you're looking at a requirement, don't look at it as someone just starting a business. Look at the evaluation criteria to see what's required. So sometimes we have evaluation criteria for a professional service, for example, where it says you may need 5 years experience doing that type of business, right? So that's what we look at. So it really is relevant to the statement of work, which outline the task that's required within the contract when we award the contract. So there's a task that's required, there's deliverables, and then also in the framework of the statement of work, we look at that to see what is relevant based on experience. So if you're a new business and you don't need to have 5 years experience, then you may not need 5 years experience. But if the 5 years experience is required to do the work, then we will indicate that in the RFP document. So we tell you whenever an RFP document is posted on buy and sell, we exactly tell you how we're going to evaluate you guys. There's no surprises. This is what we're looking for, and this is how it's going to be evaluated. So there's no surprises when a contract is awarded, and we don't discriminate about regarding years of services or not. So you can have 5 years of service versus 20 years of services. We're going to be fair and transparent, and we dictate how we get evaluated. It could be lowest price in a proposal, or it could have been best value, where technical is 60% and financial could be 40%.
And Sandra, I just posted in the chat, I stole a line from one of my colleagues from Pacific who helped us with an event we were doing last week. So he always recommends when you download the documents, because it is a bit intimidating sometimes, right, Sandra? The documents can be long because we do have the legalese that's built in there, because at the end of the day, it's still an enforceable contract. But his one saying, he's got many that are sort of take-home sayings, is search the document, use your search function for will, must, and shall. So that's some of the contracting language that tells you exactly what you will have to do or deliver in the contract. So he always recommends that companies that are thinking about it, look at it, search for those words, and if it says, must, deliver X by X date, shall ensure that these technical requirements are met for the delivery of that good. Those are sort of the requirements that are maybe in the document that might not jump out right away with some of the other information. So we steal that and pass that one along, but we have to give credit to our Pacific colleague.
Thank you for sharing that, Adam, because obviously it's a legal binding contract with the federal government, and some of the participants or interested business owners may need some legal advice in terms of if they can deliver the goods and services that they are procuring from the government. But I'm not going to be speaking alone. I don't want to ask our digital team if they have questions from the group, and then we can go to the registration process, and we can continue with this awesome presentation. This is very informative and useful. So do we have questions, digital team, from the chat? Or if you want to ask a question, just unmute. Thank you, Sandra, for being on the spot.
That's how we do it in Jamaica.
Thank you.
OSME is going to owe Sandra some coffee when we get back in the office together.
Oh, yes, they have beautiful Jamaican coffee. I remember that. Lots of rich and potent coffee. So any questions from the chat digital team, please unmute yourself, ask or pose the question to our speakers. They're ready to go at any time. Or anyone that wants to just unmute yourself, please free to do so. Thank you.
Hi, Joseph. This is Eddie Adebote on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Eddie. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Imanzi. Adams and Sandra for providing those insights. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I just wanted to get some insight into. I'm taking a look at the website, and he's talking about emphasizing your unique features and how you can actually promote your goods and services, to the procurement team. I wanted to know if this is in terms of you answer questions in terms of your RFP, or do you think that is important for someone to look at maybe SEO to try and promote your goods and services and be in the face of the procurement team? Or what is the best practice, looking at it from a different angle, in how you can be top of mind to being someone that is considered to deliver goods and services, especially in a competitive market?
Yeah, thanks for the question, and I'll maybe tackle first, and then I'll open it up to others if they want to add. That's a really common question that we do get from companies a lot, and in some cases, there's sort of different layers to it. So if the government is currently purchasing your goods or service, we always recommend to go to the site, see those procurement opportunities directly, because that's your shortest line sort of to a procurement opportunity, because they're there, they're real. You just have to spend some time understanding the requirement, working through the procurement system, but it is competitive at that point, right? So you have to meet the technical criteria and do a good job of doing that, and the cost basis. I guess there's three different things. There's that, if it's a direct product that they're already procuring. We do hear from a lot of innovative companies that have new products or services, especially with COVID. We've heard from a lot that say, I have a disinfectant system that can be put in an office place. It's a mist on a timer, doesn't require any wiping of desks or chairs. It's Health Canada certified, etc. But it's so new that you guys aren't procuring that yet. And many other goods and services we hear from. So our advice there is to definitely use this system to find out the closest you can get to that area, whether it's health and safety, or if it's personal protective equipment, how that purchasing is being done. You can also see like who's doing purchasing on buy and sell. It'll give you a contract contact. So Sandra's name's probably been on a lot of those as like a contract lead, so she would be responsible. So it does give you intel that you can follow within the government system. So you can call up the procurement person and you can say, I noticed that you have this procurement out. It's not exactly what I have or what I do, but it's close. Do you know if anybody is currently buying this product or this goods, and maybe what department might be the best one to talk to? And we do have a government slipping my mind, but you can search for different departments, different federal public servants, procurement groups within different agencies and groups, and it shows you the name. It'll tell you the director of procurement for D&D at Trenton. It'll show you who reports to them, so you can kind of work your way through the system a little bit too, to try and find procurement officers or managers, for example, in if you're selling guard dog vests, for guard dogs, you want to talk to D&D and RCMP, for example. You can talk to some of the procurement people there to see, just generally make them aware of what product you might have, but also ask how procurement's currently being done. Marketing yourself is a good thing to do for sure. The third one I was going to mention is low dollar value opportunities. So that's where it's within the authority of a manager or a director that has financial delegation, and that's what Imanzi was referring to. Some of those low dollar value opportunities where it's more direct. So sometimes they can use their authority to just purchase. So if they need, for example, a keyboard and a mouse pad, they can do a direct procurement within their own authority without going through a formal procurement mechanism. So there's opportunities where different people with delegated authority will do low dollar value purchasing sort of in a more direct manner. So if they're aware of your product and understand what you have to offer, then that might be an opportunity too. So I'll pause there, see if Imanzi or our special support guest today have anything they want to add.
you covered everything. Like right now, like when you look at a procurement document, like a RFP document or RFSO, we call it request for standing offer, request for proposal. There's always a contract and authority name in there, and you can always contact them to say, hey, by the way, we have this goods or services that we provide, and then they will provide you with, they can guide you in the right direction as to who you can contact for. So there's always ways that you can find information, and just by reaching out to any of those buyers. And you can also reach out to myself. I'm the supply engagement team leader at PSPC in Ontario region. So you can always reach out to me. You can get my information on GETS, the Government Electronic Directory. And then if you have any questions with regards to that, I'm always available to try to work with you guys as well to ensure that you guys get an opportunity, because that's our goal, is for you guys, like especially with the pilot project that we are looking at pushing forward, is for you guys to go up and submit a proposal, because that's the lesson learned. We didn't get as many proposals that we wanted to get from your community, so we want to ensure that we get the proposal. This one we're having this discussion to educate you guys on how to compose a proposal and how to register with the government, so that whenever there's a new requirement comes out, you have opportunity to submit a proposal, and then we can, meet our objectives, which is to have a diverse inclusion of contracts within the procurement process.
Thanks, Sandra. And I'll add too, like OSME, my team, you can email us. We do, we help people with searching and looking for opportunities all the time. So we're happy to provide our intel there as well. And we often get asked, can you provide us a contact to talk to that does this? And we usually, we don't provide direct names per se, but we can certainly get you in the right direction. So if we do know of, certain groups that are doing certain types of purchasing, we can make those recommendations and then get you pointed in the right direction. So happy to help with that anytime. And it was GEDS that I was having a hard time remembering. So thanks, Sandra, and thanks, Imanzi, for posting it in the chat.
Thank you so much. I know there are a lot of business owners here that may still not really understand, and I thank you wonderfully for explaining that to us. But if you could please walk us through the process. I know you have direct trainings that could take place, but given the opportunity that we have now, could you walk us through the process with respect to registration and the site, so that it becomes more, real, and it becomes more practical, because we're just trying to understand that this is a lot of information, and the business owners are here. They're very interested. They want to learn, and they want to be part of this procurement, particularly because the government says is a bidder diversity model or core value that the government wants to promote. And then Sandra just mentioned that one of the key lessons learned from the pilot is there was lack of applications or lack of information from a diverse group. If I'm correct? And so that pilot project, it's part of the reason we're doing this today as well. So if you can walk us through the process, that would be helpful, and I'm sure there'll be more questions coming in.
Sure. So I'll pass it over to Imanzi, I think, to walk you through sort of the steps that it outlines for the registration. And then I think I searched pianist because I knew that was one of the Ontario region black-led business pilots that went out. So we could search that one and show you sort of how to do a quick search, and then how to look at an opportunity and the contracting documents themselves. And for the pilot program, there was 12 procurements that were launched across Canada in January, 4 of them in Toronto. As Sandra mentioned, there is discussion going on about doing more pilots in the future. And speaking honestly, the federal government in Canada is a bit behind on social procurement. Other jurisdictions, other countries are much more advanced, but we can certainly attest that there's a lot of energy and momentum within the federal procurement system to build our social procurement program. So there's going to be opportunities more than there were before for more targeted procurement approaches. So The way the last one worked, just for information, was it was open to anybody to bid on, but black-led businesses were like tier 1 basically. So if there was black-led businesses that met the requirements and that made it through the procurement process, they were given preferential priority for awarding the contract. If there wasn't any black-led businesses that met the mandatory criteria and the contracting requirements, then it would go to all of the other bidders and it would be looked at for award to one of them. So that was a very new model for the government of Canada, first time that we had ever done it that way. So certainly broke some new ground, and as Leslie or Sandra said, lots of lessons learned on the process, and we're going to get lots more lessons learned as we work through our social procurement kind of program as it gets built. So over to you, Imanzi. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, so in terms of the first steps about registering, so one of the key things what you'll need to first start off is you're going to be creating what's called an SRI, which is a supplier registration information. You know, so how I got here is basically I just clicked on business there from the home page, click register as a supplier, and then it takes you to the screen register as a supplier. And then you would go through here. So this is really like the first step, right? And so as Adam mentioned, you're going to need, or I think as Sandra mentioned, you're going to need is a CRA business number, right? So you're going to first create this SRI. You'll go through the steps here. It has different information. You click start registration, and then you'll start filling out your profile for your SRI. From there, and I'll go back. From there, then you're going to get procurement business number, which is called a PBN. So, which is very similar to a CRA number, and this is your identifier for future when you're going to be bidding on opportunities in terms of supplying your PBN number. So once you get through these first two steps, which is very straightforward, it's just a matter of putting in your information, like the same process as you did when you're setting up or incorporating a business. Again, this is free. You don't need to go to any sort of in-depth sort of specialist to do this. If you want to, you can, but you don't need to. It's pretty straightforward, and it's sort of outlined the steps. So create this SRI, then you create your PBN, and then from there you are now registered as a potential supplier in the government database. So now you can now start looking for opportunities. Now, if you want to look for, and then you just click here, find opportunities. Just clicked on tenders. So here, this is the page for tenders, so for searching for opportunities. So there's a quick search. So you can do a quick search to say, okay, I just want to find out what are the searches from today. And it'll pull up, it'll give you what the listings of the searches from buy and sell that were posted today. And as you can see here, there's 25 postings just from today. You could go to active. So basically, active indicates what are the current active opportunities right now. So right now it's showing across the board, there's 687 active opportunities with various different closing dates and various different tender notices. So then it would specify here when it was published, and then if there is an amendment date, and then when is the date of the closing, right? So this one, for example, showing for July 7th, and you would click on that, and then it would show you the different information. You would open it up. Let's see, I don't know, full body X-ray scanner.
Imanzi, do you want to try, if you search pianist, that's one of the pilots, sure. And then we can show them one of the actual pilots, which would be good.
So,
and Sandra offered her expertise. She's very familiar with this one, if to run through the document a little bit and just show some of the the highlights and the attestation form that was sort of included with it as well, that we want people to be aware of, just so they don't miss an opportunity in the future.
I saw penis, right?
I don't know. I typed it in. It came up as what was it?
Already expired.
Are you in active only? Because it's not active. It was a closed one.
Okay, sorry.
It should be the first one, pianist for chaplain services. Award notice.
Awards.
Just go top right, I think. If you go back to the main page, it should jump you right to it.
Do you want me to search in here?
Yeah, just pianist there. And if you go down the first award notice, yeah, if you click on that. And this is where it does get a little bit confusing. So Sandra offered to do the expert overview on this one, and then you actually have to click down at the bottom to open the document itself. But maybe Sandra will pass it over to you. Just take advantage of your expertise while you're here.
Okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen so
Sure.
I can just.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stop.
Okay, perfect. I'll just see.
Thanks, Imanzi.
Yeah.
I can. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So this is the pianist, and if you were supposed to go and buy and sell now, for example, right here we have when the contract was awarded, and then we have the tender notice. So this is what I'm going to be clicking on, and the tender notice, it will show you what the requirement is for. It will tell you the GSIN number. This is why it's important. If you had a notification, you can do a notification based on this GSIN number. So anything that comes up under this GSIN number, you will get a notification to say there's something on buy and sell for this type of requirement. Down here, it would tell you, it give you a summary of what it entails and how to submit your proposal. This is just a brief synopsis of what exactly the requirement is for. Then if you go down here, you can find out the contracting officer. So if you had any questions, you can also email the contracting officer. And this information will also be in the documentation. So I'm going to look at the 000 because this is the initial RFP posting. And then there was amendment 001. So anytime there's a posting on buy and sell, sometimes a bidder will ask a question which once, like as we indicated, we're fair and transparent. So if a bidder asks a question with regards to the technical requirements, we want everyone to see what the questions were or are. And then we post that with our response so everyone will get a fair opportunity to see what was asked and how we responded to that, so they have all the information that's required in order to submit a proposal. So I'm going to open up this link right here. And this is the RFP. So it says return bid, and it tells you exactly how to return the bid and the closing of a solicitation. So we'll say when it's closing and the time. Whenever you submit a proposal, for example, if you submitted at 2:05, it will be non-compliant, it would be rejected. So look at the time on when a bid must be submitted. This date could change with amendments. So sometimes when a bidder asks a question 2 days before the closing, and if it's a technical question that we feel that is warranted, then we may respond to the question and we may extend the solicitation, but not all the time. In the solicitation document, I'm going to go to part 2. It gives you the table of contents. I'm going to go to part 2 now, where whenever you're submitting whenever you're looking at a bid, look at this one, inquiry. This is very important. If you have any questions, it would tell you how, like, you should ask a question to the contract authority no later than 10 calendar days of bid closing. So the example that I told you about, if a bidder asks a question 2 days before bid closing, we don't really have to answer the questions, right? Because it should have been asked 10 days, but sometime a contracting officer may say, okay, we're going to answer the question and then we're going to extend the posting period or the closing period. So always look at 2.4 as to how you should be responding or asking questions. It indicate there. And then I'm going to go down here now. This is the area I was telling you about, the evaluation part. You should always look at part 4 because it would indicate the evaluation, how we would evaluate a proposal, and it will tell you exactly what's required. So bidder must provide the name of the pianist as specified in Annex A. The bidder must demonstrate the proposed piano process and a minimum of 6 curriculum month experience. So if you're a new business that opened up a year ago, you can apply for this because you will have 6 months of experience. So this is what we always indicate. Sometimes for the technical evaluation, this may be included as an annex based on how many technical components there are. But in this case, we did indicate it in part 4 as to what we're looking for. And when we receive proposal, this is how we evaluate the proposal. So it's either you passed or you failed. So there's no in between. If you met the experience, then you will be moving on to the next stage. Then we indicate the financial evaluation part in part 4, how we could evaluate the proposal. And here we said the bidder, it was lowest bid. So they must meet all the mandatory technical criteria and the financial in order to be declared responsive. And here it's lowest evaluated price. So we always indicate how a proposal will be evaluated. And right here was lowest price. Sometimes we have best value. And then if you read the certification, it will tell you exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for voluntary small business and Black owned or led business. And it will indicate as to where you can find the form, the attestation form, and it's an Annex E. So you can go all the way down to Annex E now and ensure that you complete Annex E and submit that with your proposal. So it's pretty much laid out where it's easy to read, easy to follow, and we do indicate several times as to where you can find the applicable documentation. And we always, like right here, you will complete the form, you sign it, and you will submit it with your proposal. So it is very easy to follow. It's not really complex. We have different parts, so you can always look at the table of contents to make sure that you are following it. And before you submit your proposal, you can do like a checklist to ensure that you completed every part, especially the evaluation, the certification, and ensure that when you're looking at this requirement that you do meet the requirement, which is Annex A, the statement of work. It will describe the work and services that's required for the service. So I'm going to go through and show you the statement of work and how it looks.
Sandra, you mentioned checklist, and we talked about lessons learned from this pilot project, and that was one thing that we heard from some of the suppliers that we did talk to was they found it a bit confusing to make sure that they filled out all of like the mandatory requirements and the attestation form. So I know that there is some conversations going on internally about maybe having like a checklist as a cover page on some of the future pilots, so that it's, attestation form Appendix E is completed, price information from this is completed, and the other sort of mandatory, submitted before 2 p.m. on, June 15th. Check, just because there is a lot of text there at the end of the day, and sometimes it's unfortunate if something gets missed that excludes a otherwise qualified bid from being part of the process. So that was part of the feedback that we did here.
Thank you, Adam. So here's a statement of work, and it's like, picture this as a job description. It outlines exactly what we want, how we want it done, and this is for the pianists. We have the Sunday worship service. We have all these other services that's required. So this, you always should look at the statement of work to see whether or not your business meet those and can provide the services. And then we have the delivery point. This is further east. So whenever you're submitting a proposal, look at the travel costs as well. Because right now, as Adam indicated before, we're trying to look at the reducing the carbon footprints, right? So maybe this is not a good project to bid on or a solicitation to bid on because of the distance. So if you don't have anyone within that area, it may cost more money. So look at how feasible it is really to bid on this requirement. And as Adam said, then we have the basis of payment, and this is where you have to really read the basis of payment because it should be all inclusive in Canadian currency. So whenever you're pricing something, then you should think about the location as well as where the service is to be rendered, and then do your unit price based on that. And this is and it's not that complex. It's like we have the table of contents, as Adam said. The lesson learned was the checklist, so we may include that as well, though, to make it easier for businesses to submit a proposal. And
thank you, Sandra. Thank you so much for being part of our Let's Talk series. I'm looking at the time. This is such a very eventful information session. You know, you've just given us a lowdown on what to expect. And I think that checklist is a wonderful idea. And I think it's a must because there's so many regiments in terms of completing all the forms, just like CIC, which is the Citizenship and Immigration. You have a checklist so that you know you're submitting, you have to submit all these documents and make sure they're signed and whatever, whether it's original or whatever it is. So that's a key go-to area. We might, depending on if the community requires specific information from this presentation today, we might be obviously coming back to you guys, Adam, Imanzi, of course, Sandra as well, for more specific details, depending on our community. We want to have a deck, and that will be helpful. And we want to have like a seminar series, because I think this information that we've listened to today will be more beneficial if we have a seminar series giving us, you know, bits and pieces and bytes of the application process. I think most businesses would benefit from that, especially the fact that we've had a pilot project and there are lessons learned from that. I think that's an invitation that we're putting out to the OSME department. Without further ado, it's 7:56. We're very, very, very keen on time at ACCH. Our Let's Talk monthly series is an opportunity for our community to share, inspire, and advocate for all of us. When we share, we begin to see our common values, like we had with the culture talk. When we inspire, like Imanzi and Adam and Sandra has done, we create opportunity for sustainable solutions in issues that affect our communities. And advocacy for me is just breaking down those stereotypical walls of discrimination and creating an equal opportunity for all. And so without further ado, I will be leaving this podium to allow Lady Abba to please provide upcoming events and give us the closing remarks. So once again, I thank you all our guests for staying on us. I thank you all for staying, and I hope that this is something that we can continue moving forward. So over to you, Lady Abba. Please, can you give her a warm welcome to the stadium, Virtue Stadium? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajosa. Wow. Thank you, Adam, Imanzi, Sandra. Wow, that was a great addition. Thank you so much for all the information. But I do want to start with Marilyn Hall. Thank you for sharing about the beautiful Jamaica with us. You single-handedly made me want to travel right now. I love the food, the spots, the people. Wow, amazing. Just like Adosa said, it feels like a melting pot, like Canada. Thank you so much for sharing that. The idea of the culture talk is to ensure that we are all aware of who we are. And when we know who we are, we're able to appreciate each other, empathize with each other, understand each other better. And so at ACCH, we always have someone talk to us, whether it is the Caribbean culture or the African culture. We want to learn. We've heard a lot of people say Africa is one country. Is that? So we need to show them, we need to come from a place of educating people. And again, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Imanzi. Thank you, Sandra. I know you tried to make it simple, but believe you me, that was overwhelming for me, even for me. And I know that I learned things pretty fast. But one thing I took away is the process to register. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Sandra, for telling us more about the pilot project and the fact that a checklist is going to be provided, because 26 pages, wow. That is simply a lot, believe you me. And for business owners that, you know, just want to do something, having to go through all those 26 pages could be quite daunting. So having that checklist would really, really help. And to Edosa's point, we will really be following up with you, because this is just a tip of the iceberg. I would actually say it's an high-level overview. We need you to break it down more in bite sizes for us. A lot of us may be just wanting to go into business with the government just because they want to be, they want to get into the business of doing the procurement for the government, just because of that, and to supplement their income and things like that. So we will try and follow up with you. And thank you for posting that link in terms of the calendar of events. Please, before you go, make sure you copy all the links that are on the chat. They're really, really very helpful. They will at least help you start from somewhere. So what are the events that we're having? In July, we're actually going to be having either the MPP from Halton, Hills, or Oakville to come and talk to us around housing, around insurance, around childcare, all the things that the provincial government actually takes the lead on. And in August, we already have a confirmation from the Director of Education and the Halton Catalyst District School Board. He'll be coming to talk to us. You want to know what's happening in the school system. You want to let your voice be heard. Our children are going through the school system. What do you want to know? The Director of Education will be joining us. We know they have a new Director of Education for the Halton District Public School Board. He's going to resume next month. We already sent him an invitation. As soon as we have his word, we will know and we'll be able to tell you. So again, in ACCH, we just want to provide information and we want to advocate. We want to be the voice for the voiceless. So join us on this journey. Join us, volunteer. Let us have, you know, ideas from you of how we can take our community to the next level. Let's not just focus on 9 to 5. Believe me, there's so many things going on that we need to be engaged in. I would highly recommend that we join in and participate and make sure that you know, the honey and the milk of Canada is something that we are also enjoying. And not only for ourselves, we're doing it for our generation, our children's generation, and generations to come. So I want to say thank you again for joining, for staying till 8:02. We really, really appreciate it. And we look forward to connecting with you some other time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much. And before we go, please, if you don't mind and you want to show your face, let's quickly take one virtual picture, please.
Oh, I just saw a question in the chat. Is the federal procurement only for Ontario residents in terms of the one for Ontario? Someone just said that in the chart. I guess we can redirect that question to anyone, just to let the person understand that. Is it just for Ontario residents? Maybe I didn't. I didn't read the question very well, but I just saw it pop up.
No, so this is so federal procurement, meaning like it's across Canada. So if you're based in Ontario, so of course, like we were just presenting from the OSME Ontario, but if you're based in BC, if you're based in Atlantic, the buy and sell website, anyone could access it across Canada. So it's open to anyone.
Awesome, thank you. So virtual picture, everyone. If you want to show your face, that would be nice. It would be nice to meet you, meet you. Thank you all. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, don't I just love the smiles? Thank you so very much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Manzi, thank you, Adam.
Thank
you.
Thanks. We'll follow up and talk more so we can do.
Eddie Adebute, we thank you. Marilyn, I was going to ask a question. I missed it, but that's okay.
Okay.
Jamaican flag. I don't know what the Jamaican flag
Yeah,
stands
Manzi, thanks.
for.
Okay.
What
right.
the flag stands for. The green, okay, so the black is hardship. So what we say is hardships there are, but the land is green and the sun shining. That's what our flag means.
Awesome. Oh my God, Juliet attended. Thank you so much. Hello, Yinka. Thank you for staying to the end. Samson, Agada, thank you for staying to the end. We appreciate you. This is what we do. This is our community. We need to do more of this. And I really, really appreciate everyone's time. Time is precious, but time is yours. So choose your time wisely. Right?
Thank you, Dusa.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
And again, sorry
Thank
to
you.
take this
Bye.
opportunity to invite everyone to ACCH. Please join. We need volunteers. It's very, very important. It's for the community, and we're coming together to make our community stronger. So thank you all for coming. So we do more of this. Thank you. Thank you.
Abiola, bye-bye. Thank you so much. Mr. Matlock, thank you again. James, thank you so much. DJ, thank you for joining. Thank you for being there for us.
Can we get a recorded version of this?
Absolutely. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. We'll share it as soon as it's ready.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. What's the YouTube channel? Sorry, I got in late.
It's digital team. Can you share this?
DJ, can you just put in your email in the chat so that they can reach out to you, please?
Okay, no problem. I will.
Can you do it right away before we close so that we don't, we'll make sure we
I'll do it right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Weyelu, thank you, sir. Mr. Agayo, nice to see you again.
So much information. Oh my goodness. It's really overwhelming, but it's great information.
Okay, so it's there now.
Okay. We'll send you